Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom, Umevorach. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom, Umevorach. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Noah Kitty, and together with Chazan Jerry Berkowitz and cantorial soloist Harley Green, I welcome and thank you for joining us on this beautiful Shabbat evening. Your presence makes our delight in the holiday all the sweeter. Before we begin this week's service, I wanted to say a few things about last week. Well, actually, last Shabbat, we had our first Shabbat in the lot, and it was a wonderful success. And again, I want to thank everyone who helped us achieve it. It was just so lovely to see so many of our members and friends truly join us in their cars. Some folks got out of their car. It was just wonderful to see everyone face to face. But if we look in the news, what happened? Well, Texas completely opened up. So apparently they believe that that is the way to move forward. And what it really exposed was truly a sense in this country that it's not simply that there's no unity, that there's really a struggle to keep us ununited and disunited, when what we really, really need to do is reunite. So with that idea in mind, to reach out, to attempt to reunite, attempt to bring things back together, attempt to bridge divides. With that opening of our hearts, let us open ourselves to Shabbat. Thank you, Jerry.
Every time we introduce flame into a Jewish ceremony, it requires a bracha. We do it for the Hanukkah candles. We do it for the candles for the Shalosh Regalim and for the high holidays. And we do it also for Shabbat. And the reason we introduce a bracha is because flame purifies the moment. So let's do the one that we do the most often and light the Shabbat candles together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue together with the Kiddush for Friday evening.
Okay, everyone, it's time for the Kiddush. Let's sing this together. Vayehi erev vayehi boker yom hashishi Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tevam Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melakto asher asa Vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol melakto asher asa Vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi Vayikadesh oto Ki vo Shabbat mikol melakto Asher bara Elohim la'asod Savri Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam Borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho b'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kadshecha v'yava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who said, do you really have wine in that cup? Yeah, I really do.
We continue together with Shalom Aleichem, beginning our Kabbalat Shabbat, our practice of singing our way into Shabbat, to lift our hearts, to make our minds more clear, to release the tensions from the regular week. Shalom Aleichem. Thank you, Jerry.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Koachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nile Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Teithem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue our joyous preparation and song with Lechu Neranena.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. Naria, Naria, letzuri yeshenu, nekatma fana betoda. Naria, Naria, letzuri yeshenu, bezmirot Naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, Adonai.
We continue together with Mizmor LeDavid, a beautiful psalm reminding us how possible it is to create beautiful music for prayer, for song, for holy praise. Thank you, Harley.
Thank you, Rabbi. Mizmor LeDavid. Havuladonoi b'nelim, Havuladonoi kavod va'oz, Havuladonoi kavod shemo, Ishtachavuladonoi behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonoi al hamayim, El hakavod hirim, Adonoi Amayim Rabim, Kol Adonoi Ba'koach, Kol Adonoi Behador, Kol Adonoi Shover Arazim, Vayeshaber Adonoi et Arze Havanon, Vayarkidem Kamo Egel, Lebanon Mesirion, Kemoven Re'emim, Kol Adonoi Chotzef Lavosesh, Kol Adonoi Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonoi Midbar Kodesh, Kol Adonoi Yecholel al Yolod, Vayechesof Yarod, Uvehecholo Kulo, Omer Kovod, Adonoi Lama Bul Yoshav, Vayeshev Adonoi Melech Leolam, Adonoi Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonoi Yevorech et Amo Vashalom. Good Shabbos.
We continue together with Lecha Dodi. Imagine walking out as the sun is setting and feeling the energy of Shabbat, the almost presence, the sense of Shabbat. And imagine this presence, this sense, inviting you, Lecha Dodi, come my beloved. Let us welcome Shabbat together. Thank you, Jerry.
Lecha Dodi lekrat yada, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha Dodi lekrat yada, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Yishmi'anu el ha'miyuchad, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, L'shem l'tiferet v'litchila. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki hi mekor ha'beracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sod ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Migdash melech irvelucha, U'mitzvahim mitakapecha, Rav lach shevet be'emek avacha, Vehu yachamol alayich chemla. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala, B'nei Shabbat lekabela. Hidna'ami me'afar kumi, שבטי תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלכתי, פרבה אל נפשי גאלה, לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת לקבלה, לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת לקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני ים סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת לקבלה, לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת לקבלה, לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת לקבלה, לך דודי לקראת גאלה, בני שבת לקבלה.
We continue together with the Chetzi Kaddish, signaling the conclusion of the Kabbalat Shabbat portion of our service. Thank you, Jerry.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד יברך ירצה וימלך מלכותי, וחייכנו וימלכון וחיית כל בית ישראל. בגאלה, בגאלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולימי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר רמה ויעשה, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קודשה בריחו, לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, ושבחתה ונחמתה, לאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
We continue together with the Baruch Hu, the formal beginning of our evening service, and a joyful reminder before whom we stand. Thank you, Harley.
Thank you, Rabbi Noah. This is the Baruch Hu that I learned years ago from our cantor Michael Greenspan. Lai 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 la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam voed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam voed. Lai 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 lai
We continue together expressing our prayer and song with Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Lamchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu v'shachveinu v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
We continue together with the Shema and V'ahavta. As we prepare for these two central prayers, I invite you to remember that one of the commandments that we are told to observe during this double portion Shabbat is the commandment to observe Shabbat. So what is that? It's not just to observe Shabbat. It's just not to have a day of rest. It's not simply to not do something, not do work, not make change. But it's a sense of resting in the idea that there's nothing to do. In other words, everything is done, everything is taken care of, it's all finished, it's all clean, it's all complete, it's all shalem, it's all full, it's all done. And you can just rest. And that is the rest of Shabbat, as opposed to tick-tock, tick-tock. I can't wait until Shabbat is over so I can pick up the phone and call my friend and get back to business. And no, that's not Shabbat. Shabbat is simply. So as we prepare for the Shema and V'ahavta, I invite you to consider what it would be like to have such a moment of complete peace.
Let's say the Shema together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malachuto Le'olam Va'ed Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol lebavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher anochi metzavecha Hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha V'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha U'b'lechtecha b'derech U'b'shachbecha u'b'kumecha U'kshartam le'od al yadecha V'hayu letotafot b'neinecha U'ketavtam al mezuzot beitecha U'visharecha.
We continue together with the Mi Chamocha, who is as possibly awesome as our God. Thank you, Harley.
Thank you, Rabbi. Mi chamocha boelim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedor bakodesh. No ratahilot, o sefele, no ratahilot, O Sefer Elem. Malchutecha Rovanecha Bokei Hayom Lifnei Moshe uMiriam Ze Eli Anu V'amru Adonai Yimloch Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Voed ונאמר כי פדו אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גואל ישראל.
We continue together with the Hashkivenu, the so-called evening prayer, the prayer that acknowledges, but for the grace of God, our evenings would not be peaceful. May we take this beautiful, tuneful prayer and address it to all those who really need a sense of peace in their heart. May we open our hearts to receive this song and then send it out to others. Thank you, Jerry.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shoreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shoreinu lechayim. Ushmor tzedkeinu L'chaim u'shalom me'ata v'yad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shoreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shoreinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzedkeinu u'loveinu l'chaim u'shalom me'ata v'yad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shoreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shoreinu l'chaim.
We continue together with the Amidah, the central prayer of our evening service. And again, a wonderful opportunity to spend a few moments alone with your Creator. As we prepare for the Amidah this Shabbat, I invite you to pay a little extra attention to two of the artisans that are mentioned in our double portion. I'm speaking about Bezalel and Aholiab. And, I always wondered, since there really is a sense that these two artisans, these two men, these two really geniuses with a chisel and a piece of wood, that they actually make as good a couple as David and Jonathan. And it's just really as romantic, where Bezalel was from the tribe of Judah, considered one of the highest socially, where Aholiab was from the tribe of Dan, which is considered, maybe the other side of the tracks. So for those two to come together, well, that means Torah is trying to tell us something. So what is it trying to say? Well, one is that people can have within them genius. And that's what we're told. God put genius in them, but certainly we know that from all the geniuses throughout history, that they were really born with this gift. It was divinely given. So it doesn't matter, I believe, Torah's teaching, whether you're from, the hoity-toity tribe, or whether you're from more of a schleppy tribe, that genius finds itself everywhere. And more than that, it also suggests balance, where you have this tribe and that tribe, right? It sort of evens out. That you have Bezalel, who is number one, but he was really, had his genius side, whereas Aholiab really complemented him, and complemented him not just in skills or artisanship, but in temperament. We're told that Aholiab, in the mystical tradition, is found on the left side of the Sfarot, and that implies a side of judgment and discipline, which of course art requires. But from Bezalel, again from the mystical literature, we're told that Bezalel represents more kindness, compassion, love, which also art demands. So with the two of these geniuses balancing each other out, meeting in the center, and creating such genius, what does it teach? Balance. Genius is found everywhere. And we all have it within us. We continue with the Amidah.
Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imaot, Umevii Geula lebnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo b'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Meitim Atah, Rav leHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye Meitim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umidom Elach, מלך במית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
We continue together with the Mishaberach. We pray that anyone challenged with an illness be healed completely in body and in spirit. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu, Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yivarech et HaCholim. The names on our healing list this week include Sydney Honig, Rose Franco Granerwetter, Jesse Fish, Daniel Eric Marcus, Kimberly Pierce, Vicky Dobkin, James Basmagian, Susan Field, Sheila Nudis Cutler, A.C. Robertson, Suzanne Wilder, Patty Harris, Robin Gross, David Wolmetz, Dan Friedman, Roberto Correa, Bill Nissen, Melissa Vacalis, Rick Greenberg. I also invite you to say the name of anyone you'd like to send some healing energies to. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion, for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and of spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Mishaberach Avotenu, Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu, Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. So for my drash this Shabbat, I'm actually not going to talk about our Torah portions, our double Torah portions, really at any length, except to say that they are the two concluding parshiot of the book of Exodus, the book that opened up with the Israelites being enslaved under a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph, where our people were so numerous, but why they were there and who they were and what they represented, that was knowledge completely lost. It was lost, not really in time, but it was nonetheless lost. That those who should have known did not pass on the information, and as a result, our people weren't known. So what I've been working on is really how we know things. A few weeks ago, I asked you, did you ever have that experience where you wanted to get a car color that was so unique you would never again have a problem locating it in the parking lot? And so imagine you're this person, Chaim Yankel, who decides, yes, I am going to go out and get the yellowest car that I can find. And therefore, anytime I go to look for my car, it will be shining with the light of 1,000 suns. I'll have no problem whatsoever finally finding my car, right? So Chaim Yankel goes out, gets the yellow car, brings it home. It's already dark because, of course, it takes hours to buy a car. And so wakes up the next morning so excited because he's going to find his car immediately. Opens his front door, goes outside, is shocked and disappointed because his street is full of yellow cars. What happened? What happened? He spent all this money and went to all this trouble to get a yellow car because no one else has a yellow car. And he wakes up the morning and now everybody has a yellow car. So we know what happened. Chaim Yankel simply didn't see the yellow cars, even though they were very yellow as well. But he didn't see it because he wasn't looking for it. And as far as he was concerned, it simply wasn't there. It just wasn't there. Now, it truly is a phenomenon. You know, things are there, very solid things. We simply don't see them because we're not looking for them. I had this personal experience many years ago when I went through a stop sign. Well, it wasn't there the day before, and this was a street I went down all the time. Well, the town decided to put up a stop sign. I wasn't looking for stop signs. It was a familiar street. I didn't see it. I went through the stop sign. Yes, I was able to talk my way out of that one with a very accommodating officer. And again, this happened about 40 years ago. Things seemed to be a little less confrontative back then. So to the idea that we see what we're looking for, truly, it's not just a phenomenon. It's the way we look at and interpret the world. So I've asked you before, and I'll ask you again, do you believe that the world is benevolent, or do you believe that the world is dangerous? And why is that important? You know, the world is the way the world is, correct? Well, yes, you're correct, but the way the world is depends on how we see it. I mean, theologically and philosophically, we posit the idea of a world outside our perception, that we intellectually understand that however we interpret the world, it's through the lens of our own mind. And then there is the world itself that is understood as an independent agent, as it were, of my comprehension. And I'm here to suggest that perhaps that is not true. That perhaps the world really is simply how we see it. And because we're all individuals and we all have our own thoughts and feelings and ways of interpreting the world, what's happened today is truly not just a lack of understanding and appreciation that we all see things a little bit differently, but really a increase and a solidification of a particular way of understanding the world. And that comes in a two-punch form, as it were. One is that most people, or a majority of people, see the world as dangerous. And because they see the world as dangerous, they approach the world in a kind of master-commander kind of way. What do I mean by that? Well, if you see the world as dangerous, if fundamentally you understand that you need to protect yourself from everything that's going on out there because it's out to get you. And as an aside, I will admit that I also saw the world as dangerous. And because I saw the world as dangerous, that perception was reinforced over and over and over again. Why? Because that's what I was looking for in the world. I was looking for confirmation that the world was dangerous. Isn't that amazing? Why, with such violence going on in the world, how is it that I needed confirmation? Oh, I didn't really need it. It's what I was looking for. And so that's what I found. And so again, if you understand the world as dangerous, you are going to want to take the position of master and commander. What is that? Well, if the world is dangerous, you need someone, something, some form, some template, some way of protecting yourself. And so, like Torah relates, when the people said, we want a king, we want to be like other people, we need a strong man, we need someone to stand up and defend us. And God said, well, you really actually don't want a king. Because a king is not going to get you what you want. Ultimately, what I'm writing this Torah for, you don't need a king. And the people insisted, but we want a king, we want it so badly, kings are great, let us have a king. And God said, alrighty then, but don't say I didn't warn you. Now, why would the ancient Israelites want a king despite the fact that God said you don't want a king? Because the people had been slaves. They had been on the receiving end of master and commander philosophy. And they said, if it's one way or the other way, really, we want to be on the side of master commander, right? Remember the old joke, I've been rich and I've been poor and rich is better. It's the same way. If you understand the world as dangerous and therefore you understand that you really need a master and commander, then that's what you're going to be looking for and that's what you're going to need. And if it's all you've known, because again, the Israelites had been slaves for hundreds of years, they understood that they needed a master and commander. And this tragically, beyond unfortunate, tragically, what the Israelites had forgotten was they already had a king. They already had a leader. They already had someone who was there to protect and defend them. And that, of course, was God. So truly the asking for a king was a sign of a weakened faith, that the Israelites, who had all this amazing signs and wonders happen before their very eyes, still needed that external confirmation, the same way they believed they needed the golden calf. So what does that lead us to in our world today? It's not that Torah said, okay, you can have a king because God said you have a king, and therefore it must be right and just to have a king. I don't believe that. I believe God said to our ancestors, if this is what you want, then this is what you can have. Now, why is that? Was God accommodating? Was God saying, I'm going to give them just enough rope to hang themselves, poo, poo, poo? No. If we understand God as the spirit that vivifies the world, then when God said, yes, you can have a king, it was just another, not just, but it was another example of our planet's life-promoting insistence. The world demands life. And in demanding life, it wants us to succeed. It wants us to grow. Certainly, we've noticed by now that the planet contains absolutely everything we need to succeed as a species and as individuals that we could ever want for. And yet we take on an attitude of lack, again because we understand the world as dangerous and we need to defend ourselves. So where else do we see that? We see it everywhere. We see it in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. How is that? Both parties behave in a way that has truly captured the other. Say it again. Both sides have reacted in a way that really ensnares each other in this endless back and forth. Because it's a master and commander, because someone needs to win and someone needs to be in charge. And somehow, if we respond with enough force or enough kind of force or enough of this other force, that somehow we will defeat our enemy, and then what? Do we really believe the Palestinians are going to just give up and say, okay, do what you want? I don't think so. And I certainly don't believe the Israelis are going to say, okay, Palestinians will just give everything back. Pretend we didn't have 27 wars. They're not going to do that either. And until one of them understands the world differently and then will react differently because they will literally see different things, different opportunities, different avenues to communicate differently and settle their differences other than the way that are being settled right now. Because like any other cycle, any other back and forth, any other understanding the world as a dangerous place, neither one is going to stop. And truly, they've become best friends, needing each other. Without the one, the other has no reason to fight back. There's no fighting. And that is my ultimate aim, to stop us from fighting. Just stop. Think about how you consider the world. Do you think it's a dangerous place? What would it take for you to think that the world is actually benevolent? What would you have to see? What evidence might prompt you to consider even the possibility that the world just might be benevolent after all? Now again, I'll remind you, whatever we look for, that's what we'll find. But also understand this: what you look for will depend on how you see the world. Now let's say you give it a chance. Let me consider that the world is benevolent. Let me think that the world wants me to succeed. Now, how do I know the world wants us to succeed? Because life wants life. Especially here in South Florida, there's nary a corner of empty ground. There's such a passion for life that if folks don't plant something, the birds do. We have all kinds of volunteers. There's just a plethora of growth. The world wants life. How else do we know that the world wants life? Certainly something that tragically many women have experienced, which is an unwanted pregnancy. Whether the pregnancy itself was unwanted or the way the woman became pregnant was unwanted. The fact that you don't want to be pregnant has no influence whatsoever on the biological process of being pregnant. It's not your will. It's science and it's biology. It's the world. The world wants life. So if we can rest even for a few moments on the understanding and the comfort that the world wants life, how then do we understand our lack of success in it? Rabbi, the world wants life. I'm struggling so hard. The world must be at fault. And here's part 2 of the equation, which says the world is not at fault. There actually is no fault. There's no blame. There's no shame. It's just about the decisions that you've made. Rabbi, what decisions have I made? I've always worked hard and tried hard and still struggled. And yes, and that is because of the limiting beliefs that we all fall prey to way back in our childhood when we were so young and so naive and so vulnerable and so impressionable. And so when we were young, we had experiences, and that truly solidified our view of the world. And truly, too many of us had childhood experiences that led us to believe and accept and therefore see and therefore have reinforced over and over through the years and the decades that the world is a dangerous place. But we're adults now. We're not the 4-year-old or 6-year-old or 10-year-old, because truly by 10 it's pretty well formed. We're not those children anymore. We can actually indeed change our minds about how we understand the world. It's up to us, because guess what? We form the beliefs in the first place. It was us who decided, based on our experiences, that the world was a dangerous place. It was us, based on our experiences, that we looked for that which would confirm and affirm our belief in what the world was. So I encourage you again to consider the phenomena of the bright yellow automobile. And what we find is what we seek. So for this Shabbat, what I encourage you to seek truly is peace. I want you to build your Mishkan and fill it with all kinds of wonderful, special, precious, magical, and holy things. That you should see only beauty in the world. That you should see only truth in the world. That you should see care for each other. Care for the planet. Care for our future. Care for each other. This Shabbat, let you see and care for a beautiful world that God has gifted us to enjoy and protect. Shabbat Shalom. We continue our service with the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפת תזונתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבת אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We continue together with a prayer for our country. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and in spirit. Amen. We continue together with the Mourner's Kaddish. The most recent deaths in our community include Cecilia Greenberg, remembered by Howard Chaykin and Daniel Smits. Barbara Ray Baker, remembered by Howard Chaykin and Daniel Smits. Karen Lee Squire, remembered by Don Squire. Robert Lewis, remembered by James Basmajian. Jack Meslish, remembered by Harley Green. John Carson, remembered by Julie Carson. Ron Lampert, remembered by Nina Lampert. Daniel Wetzler, remembered by Arnell Booker. Stephen Hoffman, remembered by Nina Lampert. Saul Silverman, remembered by Marilyn Silverman. Vicki Weeks, remembered by Arnell Booker. Julia Marie Shaver, remembered by Harley Green. Cy Robin, remembered by Chuck Roeder. Our yahrzeit includes Marilyn Goldberg, remembered by Phil Goldberg. Betty Hankin, remembered by Barry Bates. Fagel Lampert Lipschitz, remembered by Rick Greenberg and Alex Gia. Harry Treby, remembered by Renee Lamagna and Robert Olsowski. Lawrence S. Treby, remembered by Renee Lamagna and Robert Olsowski. Harriet Behrens, remembered by Robin Gross. John Happy Burleson, remembered by Harley Green. We continue together with the Mourner's Kaddish.
Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabbah, b'yamah divrach yiruseh v'yamlich malchuseh, v'chayei chon u'v'yomei chon, u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisroel, ba'agolah v'yizman koriv v'yamru Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavarach le'olam olamei amaya, Yisborach v'yishtabach v'yispoar v'yisroman v'yisnaseh, v'yisadar v'yisaleh v'yisalal, Shmei Kudashah Barichu. Le'elah min kol berchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiram b'yalma v'yamru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisroel, v'yamru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisroel, v'yamru Amen.
Announcements. Passover is coming up. It will be celebrated once again with our annual second night Seder on Sunday, March 28th. You should have actually seen the email we sent out. We'll be sending out again and again. Actually, the cutoff date is the 14th. So please get your orders in early and join us for our annual second night Seder. We conclude our service again with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra V'nasa B'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yivlok Nora V'hu Hayam V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh B'tifara V'hu Echad V'yed Sheni Lehamshilo Lehavdira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'hamizra V'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzur Chavli B'yetzara V'hu Nisi Umanosli V'nat Kosi B'yom Ekra B'yado Avkid Ruchi V'yetishan V'yahira V'im ruchi geviyati Adonai li velo ira. Good Shabbos, everyone.
We continue together with our community blessing. May we gather and breathe in all the prayers and the songs we shared this evening and release them back to each other, spreading the blessings to everyone we love. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace. Amen, the Amen, and good Shabbos.
Feel like the world don't love you, they only wanna push you away. Some days people don't see you, you feel like you're in the way. Today you feel as everyone hates, pointing their finger looking at your mistakes. You do good, but they want great. No matter what you give, they still wanna take. Give your love and they throw it back. You give your heart, they go on attack. When there's nothing left for you, only thing that you can do, say, today, live like you wanna. Let yesterday burn and throw it in a fire, in a fire.